and easy on this Wednesday, the 22nd of January, 2025, the year of our Lord. I hope everybody's having a wonderful evening. This is Rickcast and a sea of vapid and pompous podcasts. Well, you're watching another one. Thank you for hanging out with me. I hope everybody is enjoying in the middle of the week. Most of you aren't enveloped in some kind of cold or some kind of snow where you are not very happy. And the good news is it'll be gone eventually. And the bad news is it's still January, so there's probably more on the way. Either way, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to hang out with me. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. If you are watching on Rumble or if you are watching on YouTube, if you're on the X machine, hit that follow button so that way we can grow that as well. And we got some good stories for you tonight. I've kind of been off all day because I've been looking at the PSA stuff, Palmetto State Armory, because right now in the gun industry, there's something called SHOT Show. And it's their big event in Vegas. One day, maybe one day, L1121 Strategies will make a pilgrimage to SHOT Show, but that is not this year. And so that's when they release all their new guns and their gear and all this. And when Caltech, it's a company, it's a gun manufacturer, releases just the craziest stuff. But I always give Caltech credit because it kind of shakes up a very boring industry. There's only so many Palmetto, there's so many polymer striker frame firing guns that you can have, or maybe another 2011. At least Caltech keeps it interesting. Of course, I did just buy another striker fired polymer gun. I bought the Ruger RXM. Yeah, I did. It actually shoots pretty well. So I'm actually very happy with my purchase. But they're selling they got a bunch of concept stuff, and like one of them's a 50 cal for like $3,000. And then they got their 2011 version, and they got some PDWs, personal defense weapons. Usually they're shorter 9mm stuff. But I love PSA. Although this channel stands very few things, but we stand them well. Palmetto State Armory, the Hampton Inn, and Waffle House. Those are three things I'm ready to go to the mat for on any day of the week. I love all three. I find them to be fantastic. Any occasion. And for some of you who are just jumping in, you're like, why is there a tree up? In this house, we practice the tradition of keeping our Christmas decorations up till Candlemas, which is February 2nd. So we got about another 10 days worth of Christmas decorations before we go back to our regularly scheduled green screen. Because as realistic as this looks, it's a green screen. I wish it was as cool back in the background. But yes, that's why we have our fake tree, which is really fake, and everything else that's there. But we got three stories for you tonight. Well, four, actually. We're going to talk about the school shooting in Tennessee, the death of DEI in government, the deportations have begun, and the Baseball Hall of Fame is announced, because I didn't want to do four political stories. I know it's like drinking from a fire hose right now with Trump and all the things that are happening, and I appreciate his strategy. I think Hannah Claire Brimlow made this point up on a Quartercast today, that it's a different approach than last time. Everything was kind of slow rolled in the first Trump administration, but this one, and the press was able to kind of sniff it out and make a big deal out of everything. Now it's like 400 things at once, right? There's 200 executive orders, there's confirmation hearings, there's deportations, and the press just kind of has to pick something and go. And so as far as this program, I'm just trying to highlight things that I find important, and I find I can talk about. So that's why, or else the show would be like 4.5 hours, and I just don't feel like doing that. Despite the fact I have a tasty Dr. Pepper with me, Dr. Pepper Zero, for those of you who are health conscious. It is a Dr. Pepper Zero sugar, and I actually do enjoy the taste. Good evening, Lou. How do you do? I think you're doing great. Thank you for hanging out with me. So we got a couple hot takes before, and then we got a bunch of stuff to get into. So let's get into it real quick. I should have set that up, but I didn't, because, it's just me. I'm going to plug some stuff beforehand, because if you can't plug your own stuff, who will? Ladies and gentlemen, I am going to be the Masters of Ceremonies in North Carolina in a couple weeks. at the 15th annual Carolina Men's Conference. That's not it. This is it. The Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas, February 2025, brand new website. I will be there along with a slew of other guests, the Bishop of Charleston, John Frankman, Rob and Anthony of Avoiding Babylon, John Edwards, Catholic for Rednecks, and Enoch, who will be performing as well as presenting. So it's going to be a great time. I hope to see you there. And one last promotion, because why not? Buy my book, The Catholic Case for Guns and Self-Defense, The Armed Catholic, available at Amazon.com. If you have bought my book and you put a review up on Amazon, hopefully it's 5 stars. If you put a review up on Amazon, shoot me a text or shoot me a message on email or on Twitter or whatever. Let me know and I'll send you some swag. I'll send you some Armed Catholic swag because reviews are huge on Amazon. And if you do a review for me, I'll send you some, like a free hat or a free t-shirt or something as a thank you for doing so. Because the algorithm on Amazon's nuts. It's just based on reviews. Reviews really power it. So if you do a review for my book, The Armed Catholic, I'll send you a free t-shirt or a free hat or something like that. Let me know. You just got to send me you got to send me a couple pictures. You got to send me the book and you got to send me the review. Once it processes, then I'll send it your way. All right, folks. Now that I'm, done with that begging, let's get to some hot takes. Not hot cakes, although I'd like some hot cakes right now. I'm in the middle of a cut because I'm trying to actually fit into my suit for the Carolina Conference. So I'm trying to cut, which is not great during a winter storm because all I want to do is eat, right? When it's cold out, what do we want to do? We just kind of want to, get under a bunch of blankets and eat. I don't know about you, but I go into what I call bear mode, where I just eat under a blanket and just try to stay warm. But these are hot takes, not hot cakes. As you can tell, I'm kind of hungry. So Trump fired this off on Truth Social this morning. I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love the Russian people, and they've always had a very good relationship with President Putin. And this despite the radical left's Russia hoax. We must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60,000 lives. It's a lot of lives in the process. All that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favor. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse if we don't make a deal, and I make great deals. And soon, I have no other choice but to put high level of tariffs, taxes, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which would never have started if I, your favorite president, was there. We can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. And the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost. Good job, Trump. What do you think? Trump has this things closed by Valentine's Day? I'd see that. Gives him some time. I could see it being done by February 14th. Just a nice, that way he can be like, Valentine's Day to the American people. War in Ukraine is over. And so stuff like that. That's what the Rickcast is going to go on the record and say, February 14th, the Ukraine war officially closes. Now there's going to have to be some compromises, as other people said. Russia's going to keep Crimea and whatever land they have. They may establish what I think, they may do a DMZ, kind of like what they did in North Korea, because the Minsk agreements and treaty is still there, where NATO cannot be on the border of Russia. So I have a feeling they're going to establish some kind of demilitarized zone, whatever the no man's land is right now, that's been blown up and destroyed. I have a feeling they're going to do that. They'll create some kind of DMZ, and that way they can let Ukraine into NATO, and it won't be on the border of Russia. And they can kind of dance around the whole, well, we have Ukraine and NATO, but there's not a NATO country on the Russian border because they have that buffer zone. And I think that's just going to have to nobody's going to be happy with this except people like myself and you, if you're watching here on the Rickcast, happy that the war in Ukraine is over, because that's all we desperately want. We want the war to be over in Ukraine. We want the money to be back. Now, MDD229 on Rumble, what's up, my Rumble people, asks a great question. And then Ukraine will pay back the loans they received from us. MDD229, I wish that was the case. Here's the funny thing, and my jaded self will tell you, the loans already have been paid back because those loans were just laundered and went back into the defense contracts. So that's how they did that. We're never seeing a dime of that. I think Trump even said, I'll just forgive him. You know, I get it. No, I get it. And but that's a serious question because we loaned them like a gazillion fulfillion dollars. And then all that money just kind of disappears, man. It just poof. And then they wonder why we have a deficit. And then they wonder why the cost of living and inflation and everything goes up. It's because they spend like drunken sorority girls because they're all trying to get out for themselves. A lot of people got rich after the Ukraine war. Just like the rest of history, a lot of poor people in Ukraine died, and a lot of people back here got rich. It's funny that the left has been talking about robber barons and all these other kinds of things lately because of the oligarchy with Trump and Musk. Yet the Democratic Party and their friends in the military-industrial complex, they all got wealthy, kind of like robber barons. So once again, the left likes to project the things that they are doing. But yeah, I get your sarcasm that, what about these loans, man? You're going to give these loans back? How about no, you're not getting them back, but at least Trump is on getting this whole thing settled, right? And it would be nice to get that taken care of. Another hot take coming this way. Is there trouble in Kamala land? Kamala land. They say that Melania and I have trouble, but they never talk about Kamala and her husband, who was oogling Carrie Underwood during the performance. I'm not even kidding. Go back and watch the tape. But it seems that there is trouble in Kamala land because she, being a woman, is going to blame everybody but herself for the laws. Now, it's tough for anybody. I say being a woman, but most people have a hard time doing a self-evaluation when they crash and burn as badly as Kamala is or had during the election. I said that, throughout the entire 2024 election that it was Trump was going to win, and they needed a sacrificial lamb. And since Biden had given so much to the Democratic Party over 50 years, they weren't going to let him take that L. And they were just going to give it to Kamala because they had a Kamala problem. Being the vice president, she was going to be the standard bearer, and they kind of still are dancing around that. But when you get blown out, like Trump blew out the candidate, nobody remembers the loser. Nobody's going to remember Kamala Harris in 10 years. Like, nobody remembers who ran against, and so forth and so forth. I mean, we kind of do, but we don't put that much emphasis on it. Especially since she's the second woman. She'll be known because she was a woman of color and blah, 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 blah. But I think this is more of just, hey, look, Kamala's still a thing. Don't forget about her yet. She's still relevant. She's still in the news. Oh, it's Doug's fault because Doug, what? Wasn't soy enough? Or there were things about his past. You knew it when you married him, right? You gotta take the Hillary Clinton approach, especially if you're going to be a political couple. You can excuse Donald and Melania because I don't know if Melania, when she married Trump, he had ambitions. Like, that was 20 years ago. Today's their wedding anniversary. I saw it on Twitter. They got married 20 years ago because he was 58, I believe. So, which is crazy. I don't think he had ambitions of being a presidential candidate back then. Kamala was only in politics her entire life. So when you choose to marry, just like Hillary knew Bill, he was a dog. He's a dog. He's going to be a dog till he dies. But he's good for political momentum. He is a good politician. He's probably one of the most charismatic politicians out there and that we've ever had on the campaign trail. So you balance, like, yeah, he's a dog. Yeah, he's going to do all this other stuff, but he's going to be good for me politically. Kamala, this is your decision, which I guess reflects poorly on you. You chose Doug as your political piece because your spouse is a political. Everything about you when you run in politics is carefully chosen. your spouse, how many kids, the dog, all these things are, put together with groups and stuff like that. So when you choose your husband, and she chose him relatively late. It's not like she chose him when she was 20 and she was like, well, I didn't know because I was in love back then. She chose him relatively late. So any problems that Doug may have given on the campaign trail, that's her fault. And I'm not blaming Kamala. That's, a lot of people don't pick a good spouse. It's one of the most important decisions we make, and yet we kind of just, with no fault divorce and all this other kind of stuff, we kind of steamroll through it just to kind of say, oh, well, look, my husband, and if it doesn't work, I can always divorce him. Or I can divorce her, or whatever the case may be. But the Daily Mail is saying Kamala blames her husband for the election shell-lacking. Doug did Kamala no favors during the election. Frankly, he looked like a hypocritical jerk after the bombshells that he got his child's nanny pregnant while marrying to his first wife. Listen, like I said, Kamala knew all of these things. And if she didn't, well, then you didn't do your due diligence. When you get married to somebody, all the stuff's got to come out on the table. So that way you never want your spouse to be blindsided, especially in politics. Especially in politics. That's, say whatever you want about Bill and Hillary. They were, she knew all about him and she was ready for it. But this is kind of just a blame away from Kamala. It's not Kamala's fault. Obviously, it was, if Doug was a better husband, which you picked, I don't know. Interesting, though, that she's still, I think it's more of a thing to kind of keep her in the headlines. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our first story of the day. Here on Rickcast, I am the aforementioned Rick. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. Do all the things to help this show grow. Back on Rumble, kind of hard to blame him considering the average Democratic voter wouldn't be able to pick him out of a police lineup. Exactly. Any coverage of Doug was very good. The only places where Doug was given a negative rap was on X, and that's not huge politically. It's not, compared to the mainstream outlets with a lot of Democratic voters and stuff like that. Doug, I don't think Doug was a huge factor. He wasn't going to get you votes, but he wasn't going to lose you votes. Tim Walz was more of an anchor around Kamala's neck than Doug was. Like Tim Walz is a historically bad vice presidential candidate. Historically bad. And the only reason he was there is because nobody else wanted in. Nobody else wanted in on this. Nobody else wanted to be the vice president to this sinking ship. It's like, hey, we just hit the iceberg. Do you want to be captain of the Titanic? But yes, good point. My Rumblers. I love you guys. You Rumblers are getting into it tonight. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. First story, ladies and gentlemen. From the AP, teen fatally shoots a female student and then himself at Antioch High School in Nashville.
Of a confirmed school shooting. A call came in around 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern, so just about an hour and a half ago, that there was a shooting in the cafeteria at a high school there, Antioch High School. At least 3 people are confirmed to have gunshot wounds at this time. We're just getting the initial information from there. The shooter then turned the gun on himself. This is just the early information that we are getting there. The Metro Nashville Police Department couldn't immediately provide the conditions of those who were shot. So we're waiting on an update on that. But the shooter's believed to have shot 2 students before shooting himself. And they could not confirm immediately whether the shooter was a student. So again, we're waiting more information on this.
So we do know he was a student at the school. There is a video floating around of somebody in the cafeteria taking you will not see this on this program because the last time I demonstrated or showed a video, my channel the video got taken down. You can find it on X or any of these platforms if you really want. But the idea is, first of all, well, I'll get to that in a second. Do I have the actual picture of him? I guess, hold on. We do. Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I thought I pre-planned this, but we have the the photo of the gentleman. You can see all this is pretty much all my planning. I look for stuff on X and then, I bring it up. Come on, where are you? I know he's here. Yep, we'll get to that story in a minute. Come on. Did I not have it? Or maybe I did. So the shooter is black. And there's a big deal on it. We have his manifesto. We'll take a look at it real quick. But people really, there he is. Here's our guy. Sorry, not to make it sound like, I'm happy about that. But this is our gentleman, 17-year-old Solomon Henderson was the shooter at Antioch High School in Nashville. So this is the second in the span of 2 years, because remember Aubrey back at the Christian elementary school in 2022 or 2023, I believe. I know, because I covered that one when I did the Daily Mag Dump. Second diversity school event that took place there. Sorry for the middle finger. That's just what it is. So that's your guy, and he had a manifesto. Yes, I do. I'll get to that one in a second. And so the manifesto of the Antioch shooter specifically names Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens as inspiration. Like, some of the stuff this dude wrote, I can't read on the air, and I won't read on the air. The whole thing with the manifestos, Lou, it's a great question. The thing with the manifestos is it is the second part of the desire of these shooters, and that is infamy. And there are some people who are like, I'm never going to say the name because okay, great. Congratulations. Everybody else is. Because these things need to be studied. You need to study them, expose them, debunk them, and then prepare for them. And I'm talking about preparing in a moment. But it's the second part of wanting to be known. And a lot of these kids, when they do it, it's a cry for help. And a lot of these people, when they do it, it's a cry for help. It's a cry for attention. It's a cry to be noticed. But it's kind of funny that this specific account pointed out Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens when he also mentioned Destiny and Hassan Piker. Now, you're deep into internet lore if you understand those two, but Destiny and Hassan were mentioned, as well as people that radicalized him, as well as Ethan and Ralph, Mr. Beast, a lot of others. And then Candace Owens has influenced me above all. Each time she spoke, I was stunned by her insight, and her views helped me push further and further into the belief of violence over the blank question, along with Turkey, Tom, and Ruben Sim pushing me to the right pipeline. Now, of course, these manifestos can also be used as the last piece of political propaganda against somebody, because Candace Owens is entitled to her opinion, and the actions of somebody else is not Candace Owens' fault. Nick Fuentes, as stupid, and I don't like the guy. Sorry, I don't get his thing. I don't get his appeal. Whatever he says, the actions of somebody else are not his fault. Even Mr. Beast or Hassan Piker or Destiny or any of these people, myself included, if I said something that somebody took to a different place, I'm not responsible for that person's actions. But that's how these things, they will use this as a placard to go after Nick Fuentes, as a placard to go after Candace Owens. And that's not right, because other people will name there as well. And there are other things that this dude wrote in this thing that are absolutely horrific, and they should be called out. But the female student, it looks like, well, we don't know the name of the female student, but I have a feeling based on the writings of this this manifesto and his ideas that this woman was of a certain descent. I'm sure you guys can get where I'm going with that one, from the Middle East, of our greatest ally. Nearly 2 years, it was 2 years after a deadly school shooting in the city that ignited an emotional debate about gun control in Tennessee. The 17-year-old shooter, once again, 17-year-old. So, real quick on the gun control side, 17-year-old cannot own a long gun, cannot own a handgun. The school is a gun-free zone. So those three things right there that gun controllers will not even consider. They'll say, we need more gun control. He's underage, couldn't own any guns, and the school is a gun-free zone by federal law. So apparently that didn't do anything. And by the way, murder is illegal. So that's the fourth thing. And so he shot himself with a handgun. Whatever. I'm trying to dance around the language on YouTube. I'm just reporting the news here, YouTube. Don't censor me or don't tase me, bro. So he had a handgun. So 21 years old is a federal thing. It doesn't matter what the state says. You have to be 21 years old to own a handgun. This kid was not even close to it. Now, of course, is this going to transition to how did he get it? Was it his parents? Now, are his parents liable? Because a lot of people like to try to do that. So it's going to be a question there as well. Police Chief John Drake said the shooter confronted a 16-year-old female student in the cafeteria and opened fire, killing her. Police identified her as Jocelyn Correa Escalante. Sounds Hispanic. Drake said police are looking into motive and whether he targeted specific student he shot. It sounds like, honestly, it might be a case of a broken heart. And emotional, just being an emotional kid. Especially males. And this is we talk about white males, but males overall feel like they're being left behind, which is why they voted en masse for Trump. And maybe this young girl rejected him, and this was his only recourse because he didn't have parents to talk to, or he just didn't understand how to, every teenage boy's been crushed by the girl they like a girl they like. They ask him out, the girl says no, and they get crushed, right? Believe it or not, despite this face, it happened a lot in high school, which I don't know how I landed a 10 of a wife. God looked out for me there. But we've all been dumped. We've all been told no. But the fact is, nowadays with the internet, the emotional response for young men is not as good, because they feel that, oh, well, how could you do this to me? All these other kinds of things. So I have a feeling that this is all just the result of a broken heart or hurt feelings or just lack of emotional control, which most young men struggle with, period. It's not a black, white, Asian, Hispanic. It is just young men, period, have problems regulating their emotions. That's why we always joke, that men, their brains don't develop until they're 25. And women mature sooner. So that's just kind of what it is in that regard. At least that's what I'm trying to be fair in this regard. So how does this stuff happen, right? How does this stuff happen? School zones. It's a school zone, so it should be no guns allowed. He's 17, shouldn't be able to own a handgun. Well, the first thing that we look at, and you've seen it a couple times, is the principal, the director of Metro Schools, Miss Battle, said metal detectors were pulled from Antioch High School because they had unintended consequences. I used to work in Dallas way back when I was a teacher. Way back in the day, I was a football coach. Where I was a football coach in Dallas, but what I did, I just filmed the practices and the games. I didn't coach anything. I was a part of the coaching staff before anybody tries to say that. But I'm not going to claim that I was some kind of football coach. I was on the staff and I just held the camera. Yeah, whatever. But one thing coaches did is we had metal detectors and we did bag checks every morning, and the coaches rotated. So every third week, I would have to look in the bags for guns, knives, I did it. Most coaches do it in Dallas and in the inner cities. We do those things. There were metal detectors. There were all those kinds of things. No, unless Nick Saban was unless Nick Saban was a guy who filmed practices. I didn't coach I didn't coach a single snap of football, but I did a great job recording them. But the idea is, well, they have unintended consequences, meaning she didn't put them in the school because it's probably a minority dominant school. Nothing wrong with that. But the appearance of metal detectors at the doors probably fosters some kind of patriarchal trauma response in these students, which, they give these kinds of words. Like I said, when I coached, I was in the middle of Dallas. In fact, the school I taught at, Emmett Conrad High School, was near one of the 3 major immigration centers in the United States. So we had people from all over the world coming through our school. And I did checks, and we did metal detectors. We had to evacuate the building one time because somebody supposedly had a gun. It was a BB gun, but we had to evacuate. So, you know what I mean? The worst one was one time, it was right before we had this thing called STAR testing. It's our standardized testing here in Texas. And there was a fight in one of our school is 3 floors. And on the second floor, there was a massive fight in one of these common areas. And so the Dallas ISD police, pepper sprayed the entire common area. You couldn't get rid of the pepper spray smell for probably the rest of the school day. And then these kids are like, by the way, here's your pencil. Go do your STAR test. And so it happens, but she removed them because she didn't want the kids to feel stigmatized. We had a lot of great kids that came through that school at Emma Conrad. It's part of the deal in the inner city schools. Not because the majority of them are bad, but because there's always that one case. And that's the same for suburban schools. All right. In Nashville, you had one. Antioch, I guarantee you, is probably a big a school that has more minorities than anything else. But guess what? The Christian white school, you had it 2 years ago. So it's not a race thing. And so when I talk to people about securing schools, I have a 5-point plan. And this is the only time I sound like a politician. The first point is something called Operation Overwatch. There's a guy called Instructor Mike here on YouTube. He's fantastic. You should follow him. And if you're into guns, he's great. He has this thing called Operation Veteran Overwatch. And it's vets, because everybody wants to put vets at the front door. He's like, don't put vets at the door. It's going to cause problems. What you need to do is put vets in the parking lot, and they can monitor the parking lot. And they can take shifts, and they don't have to actually be on property. They can always monitor they can do all this stuff. And if anything happens and they're authorized, they can stop a threat. Like in this case, I'm sure, or the better case was the Covenants shooting, where the person drove into the parking lot, took out a firearm, took out all this tactical gear, and walked openly towards the school. If you had somebody in the parking lot from Veteran Overwatch, they could at least say to the school resource officer, hey, you got somebody coming towards the school with an AR-15. You got to stop them. So you have Operation Veteran Overwatch. That's the first ring. Think of my plan as layers, like an onion or a parfait. Layers. First layer is Operation Veteran Overwatch, courtesy of Instructor Mike. Second one is school resource officer or security officer. 1, 2, 3, whatever. Third layer is non-teacher personnel. Non-teacher personnel. I'm talking janitors, lunch ladies, school resource counselors, secretaries. Why? Because most campuses are huge. Most campuses are massive. And it's hard for one school resource officer, like in this case, the school resource officer didn't get there until it was already too late. But if the lunch ladies got something, and the people who are not dealing with kids a lot, janitors, coaches, whatever, they can react and get to a place faster than and it can assist a school resource officer. So that's your third layer. First is Operation Veteran Overwatch. Second is school, some kind of security or some kind of school resource officer. Third is non-teacher personnel. Fourth is department heads, if they want to, because they usually don't have as many classes and they have an office where they can lock up their firearms away from kids. And then my last line of defense, and this is everybody else is like, do this first. And as a guy who's been in the classroom for 10 years and as a guy who loves guns, teachers should be your last line of defense when it comes to school defense. If teachers want to carry guns, they should have that option, but they should not be forced because A, most of them are woke and they don't want to do it. And B, they're not going to be comfortable and they're not going to take it seriously. There are teachers that want to. Every school I've taught, there was always teachers that were willing to do it. But if you just put it on them, because during these school shootings, during these school events, they have to monitor their students. They have to be responsible for their students. So, and they will not leave their classroom. So the idea of arming them as the only solution is terrible. It's the 5th point in my 5-point plan. So it's Operation Overwatch in the parking lot, school resource officer, non-teacher personnel, department heads, and then teachers. If you have something like that, I guarantee school shootings would end tomorrow, because there's too many guns on the campus, and this person doesn't know where they are. This thing happened in the lunchroom. This kid shows up, lunch lady drops the sloppy joes and takes the kid out. That's it. You think, and believe me, the lunch ladies, I have no problem saying that they'd be ready to roll. It is what it is, though. It just it has to be addressed. As long as we're going to have public schools, it has to be addressed. But that's unfortunate. We have another sad case today of a student who, for some reason or another, was supposedly inspired by the internet and social media, and the fact that he didn't think that he had a future, and that this girl was she shot him down. Sorry, poor choice of words. She rejected him, and so he spiraled out of control, not being able to handle it, and this is how he felt that he needed to exact revenge, or whatever the case may be. It's terrible. And until we start taking school security seriously, these things are still going to happen. All right, this is Rickcast. I'm the aforementioned Rick. Let's get on to our next story of the day. All right, Trump rolls back DEI efforts in government. Trump is after it, baby. He's going after it. He's going after it hard. All right. President Donald Trump ramped up his, attack on federal DEI efforts Tuesday, dismantling DEI offices and rolling back decades-old protections put in place by the civil rights movement. Do you see the narrative that they use? Oh, the day after Martin Luther King Day. Look at Trump. I'm surprised he didn't do it then. He's rolling back the protections on the civil rights. We're going back to the 50s. It's gonna be the Handmaid's Tale. Come on, man. Relax on all that. Just chill. Okay. 99% of DEI is trash, and it doesn't help anybody. And it's been nothing. It's been twofold. It's part of this nasty chain of higher education. Higher education creates diversity, equity, inclusion within the HR departments, right? HR masters and all that stuff. And then a subcategory became diversity, equity, inclusion. So these people are coming out with degrees, right? They're coming out with degrees, and there's no jobs for them. So the government then says, you have to mandate this. You have to put this into practice. And it's a brilliant strategy, because the school's indoctrinated. They created the programs. And then when they unleashed, and I use the word unleashed, these kids, because they were, they're 20, 21, 22. They're coming out of college. They come out and they're like, there's no jobs. Well, there's jobs now, because the government has to do it. You have to have DEI. You have to have something in your department. And of course, the federal government is a great place to start. Every department's got to have DEI in it. And then HR's got to have, because that's all HR is just a DEI department. And they enforce the DEI things. And the government doesn't even have to, all they have to do is say it's required. And then private companies hire these people, because if not, then you're racist, sexist, bigoted, blah, 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 blah. And all these people do is they walk around and they hinder people's ability to work. They hinder people's ability to do things, to function. Because, well, what about this? Do you have this many people? Do you have that person? And this is part of the argument that we were having. I'm sorry, I'm not doing great right now for some reason with my Wi-Fi, so I apologize if I'm looking on Rumble and I'm looking on Twitter. I'm time jumping around. I don't know. I'm plugged in. I'm going to cut this out. Astound Internet is astoundingly bad. Astoundingly bad, because I have high-speed internet and it's connected right into my computer, yet I'm still spurging out over here. So anyway, back into the story. DEI is created. And the government says, hey, you have to have this stuff. And they unleash their army of blue-haired, nose-pierced employees to go after them. And so I think it's good. I think it's necessary. It needs to happen. These made-up jobs, by the way, like marketing is also like a made-up job. That's where you see these people on Instagram where they're like, oh, this is what I do. I wake up and I go to yoga class and then I go to these places and then I do all this other kind of stuff. Okay, this is ridiculous. Like, I am all over the place. Please don't leave me on Twitter or on Rumble. Oh man, this is terrible. I don't know, guys. I apologize, but please stick with me. So they release these people. Now, it's good. It's very good that Trump is doing this. And of course, the reaction of these people is absolutely fantastic when you think about it. Let's see if you guys can actually see this video here.
Diversity is a strength that makes organizations.
Hold on. Let's get this whole thing set up for you.
Jasmine, can we just drill down on this DEI initiatives piece for a moment? Because there's research that shows diversity is a strength that makes Jasmine.
Who is telling us that diversity is the strength? Who's the one doing it? We have a study cited. Who's saying that?
Initiatives piece for a moment, because there's research that shows diversity is a strength that makes organizations stronger, whether federal or private. Sure. So what's the argument behind the scenes for getting rid of the DEI initiatives? Is it just we're getting rid of woke?
I mean, it's actually kind of funny who they chose to interview, right? It's kind of funny who they chose to interview in that regard. Like, let's bring on the classic example of DEI to explain why we need DEI.
Yeah, I think that frankly is the argument. I mean, I think that you know as well as I do that there are a few things that President Trump said in those rallies more than that he would get rid of the woke ideology and he would get rid of DEI practices and instead put back what they call meritocracy type style government.
Oh, no, not meritocracy. Not that, where it's based on how well you can do the job and not the color of your skin, your gender, your sexual identity, and the fact that you become nothing more than a number. That's the crazy thing. DEI is a racist type policy because it puts you into silos based on your something that you can't control. You're born black, you're born white, you're born a man, you're born a woman. And yet she's like, you got to go back to like merit-based.
Where people are, where basically it's race blind, right? People are promoting.
DEI is race-based. And by the way, white women are some of the most, they're the greatest recipients of DEI.
By their own merits, they say. And so they believe that this is a fulfillment of those promises that Trump made on the stage at various rallies over the last 2 years. And frankly, these are policies that in at least some ways have been thought out for years by the think tanks that were kind of doing these
the think tanks that had DEI in them. The think tanks that were based out of, wait for it, colleges.
Policy papers,
think tanks, all these people that don't have real jobs. These people who live in DC making six figures, writing policy papers on why it's great that you have to have XYZ amount of people in your job in Idaho or XYZ amount of people in your job in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's like 94% white. New Hampshire's like 94% white. And then sometimes they're like, I can't hire you because this job has to go to whatever, a black or an LGBTMA people, whatever the case may be. Right? It's great. Hey, Michael, it's great work if you can get it. I'm not gonna hate on you if you're getting that kind of work. But at the same time, don't sit there with this lady and be like, we're going back to like merit-based work. Yeah. Because guess what? You shouldn't have something handed to you because you were born a woman. Of course, nowadays you can just change whatever, right? And then work the system. But it is slimy. And the fact that they're trying to be like, oh, these These protections are being rolled back. What's going to happen? People's lives are going to get better. And the government, which is bloated as it is, should become more efficient if we don't have so many DEI hires. Right? And so this was reported last night, pretty much as we went off the air. All federal worker employees in DEI roles have to be placed on paid leave by, of course, it's on paid leave, by 5 p.m. Wednesday, as those offices and programs are being ordered to shut down. Get rid of them. If we just get rid of all the DEI practices in government, the world would be a better place. And if the stigma is not attached to personal jobs anymore, then yeah, it might get better there too, because there's no reason for DEI. We see it, that DEI is not a strength, it is a weakness, because it puts people in positions that they're probably not suited for and that they ultimately fail at, or they're not good at, and then the company, the whatever, has to struggle. Now, that person's probably very talented somewhere else, but in a way, they're almost being forced into this position. So it's great. I'm very happy that Trump's deciding to do that, and letting the libs cry is even better. All right, folks, this is Rickcast. I am the aforementioned Rick, and it looks like my internet issues have finally, of course, I can't like have this as a segment tomorrow. Thanks, Astound Energy or Astound Internet, which is astoundingly bad, by the way. Don't if you have a choice between Starlink, whatever Elon Musk said, when I get the chance, I'm dumping Astound broadband. It's trash. I'm going to get Starlink because this is just ridiculous. There's nobody in my house right now. And yet my internet's like, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to work. Trash, Astound. Trash. All right. Now I'm moving on. I'm done. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Another thing that Trump has done has started the deportations. Right? We're going to get rid of them all. We're going to get rid of them. They're going to go away. That's what's going to happen. And it's happening. So, from CBS, Trump expands expedited deportations beyond border areas as part of the Trump crackdown. The Trump administration on Tuesday dramatically broadened the scope of expedited deportations, enacting a nationwide expansion of immigration policy known as expedited removal that was previously limited to only areas close to the U.S. border, meaning you could only be expedited an expedited removal if you were within a certain 100 miles of the international border. So if you were deported, or we went into the U.S. and then you went to like a church or a school or something like that, or a hospital, you couldn't be deported. Now that's gone. Those safe spaces are no longer there. Expedited removal allows you as immigration officials to deport immigrants or migrants, criminal alien trespassers who lack proper documentation, i.e. they are illegal, through a streamlined process that bypasses the lengthy and massively backlogged immigration court system. You know, the one they're like, hello, your name? My name is Juan. Juan. All right, Juan, you have an appointment to come back here in 3 years because we're backlogged. You're going to come back here. See? And then Juan disappears because Juan's not stupid. Juan disappears and goes to California where it's a sanctuary city, and he don't got to worry about it no more. The idea that people who break the law by coming into the country illegally are afforded protections, and I know SCOTUS did this a while back, that everybody gets protections because nobody's illegal or whatever the case may be. It's absolutely stupid. You can go away. Before Tuesday's change, federal immigration officials were only allowed to use this expedited removal on unauthorized immigrants, i.e. criminal trespassers, detained within 100 miles of the international border and who has been in the U.S. for less than 2 weeks. Now, everybody gotta go. Everybody gotta go. Tom Hoon, what do you think?
Deportation orders, people that are criminal. Let's talk about ICE visiting folks, because when I look at it, I look at the law, people that have final deportation orders, people that are criminal aliens. What would a person have to do to get a visit from ICE?
For it to be in the country illegally, first of all, I mean, there's nothing in the immigration law that says you got to be convicted of a serious crime.
This is where the left is trying to get after this. Well, and that's what the woke bishop did, where she was like, oh, they're here and they pay tax. They're here illegally. They broke the law by coming into the country. They're not supposed to be here. I can't go into Mexico and then be like, hey, man, I'm a citizen. I can't go to Japan illegally and be like, hey, man, I'm a citizen. You can't kick me out. But yet we're allowed to do that here.
To be removed under the INA. So if you're in the country illegally, ICE can visit you. But right now, as we said repeatedly, and the President Trump's been clear, we're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats and national security threats. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals. Some of them were murderers. Some of them were rapists. Some of them raped a child. Some were sexual assault of a child. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would. So the ICE is performing excellent right now out in the field, and they're going to continue every day.
All right, so there you go. Now, of course, people are saying, well, the American people don't want this. The American people don't want this. They're compassionate. And for a while, you know, they had that. They did convince the soccer moms, and they did convince a lot of people that, hey, this is, you know, no humans illegal. Remember all that stuff? Well, CNN actually had to come out and admit, yeah, 2025 ain't 2016.
Slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity.
I want you to look. This says deport all immigrant here illegally. Not ones that committed a crime, not ones that If you're here illegally, do you need to go? And these are not bastions of conservative thought when you look at these polling resources.
All immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times, Marquette 64%, CBS News 57%, ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So if they say yes, today-ish, how has that changed over time?
Yeah, this is where
I like how the liberal white woman's like, well, what if it changes?
I think you get very interesting. And so we'll take a look at that ABC News question in particular, because you can really see that there's been a massive shift from when Trump was first getting in.
2016, 36%. And that's where they were able to go, oh, nobody's illegal. Oh, this is so bad. It's so terrible. Look at AOC. She's at the border just crying. Now people are like, forget this.
Office 8 years ago, right? Deport all undocumented immigrants. You go back to 2015, I'm going to come to your side of the screen. It was 42%. Hello. 2016, it was 36%. Look at where we are now. This was taken at the end of last year. 56%. This is 20 points higher than it was just before Trump got into office the first time. So feelings towards immigration in this country, feelings towards undocumented immigrants and deporting all of them have become considerably
illegal, criminal alien trespassers, homie.
More hawkish. And I think that gives Donald Trump much more leverage to go with the American people and sort of have these hawkish, some might say harsh, different rhetoric and also issue-based sort of going after immigrants.
Listen, if you're here illegally, you got to go. I don't care if they're crying. You got to go. It's not fair to people who are born here. And that's not a race thing. If you're born in this union, you should not have to go to the back of the line while somebody who broke the law to get here gets hotel rooms, they get money, they get phones, they get all the things given to them. We got homeless vets, we got people struggling to eat. And I cannot friggin' stand Astound Energy right now. I'm so angry at my internet. All of this stuff that's happening, and yet these immigrants, they come around, they flash their money, they flash their phones, they flash their hotel rooms. Meanwhile, Americans are hungry. They're dying in the street. They can't get medical. One of the things is if you go to El Paso, Blue City, they don't like them that much either because immigrants come across the border. They go to the emergency rooms And guess what? If you're a U.S. citizen, you got to sit behind them because the hospitals have to take them. And the hospital knows this illegal immigrant that's coming from Juarez is not going to pay any of this stuff. They're going back across the border as soon as it's done.
Who are here illegally. And so I think the American people are going to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt to do what he wants to do, at least if you believe these blunt questions, including this one.
How about immigration levels?
Yeah, okay. So this sort of goes in line with that, right? Which is, again, trying to get at the underlying feelings. Want immigration levels decreased. This includes legal and illegal immigration. Look at this. Last year, 55%. That is the highest level since the 9/11 aftermath. You go back just to 2020.
And this, again, legal and
illegal.
So people want less people coming into the country.
Exactly.
Yes, white lady, that's exactly it. I know that goes against your entire worldview, but that's what the question says.
They want less people coming into the country. Look at that. That's a 14-point rise from 2023. You go back to 2016 when Donald Trump again was running for president the first time, it was 38%. That's a 17-point rise. So the bottom line is more folks want people who are here illegally deported, and their overall feelings towards immigration have become considerably more hawkish since Donald Trump was first getting in office, Kate.
Yeah, there you go, Katie. So what do we do? What do the libs do now? Well, they're going to run to TV and try to tell their precious illegal immigrants what to do.
Advice can you give them to kind of help with the fear and to help give them some tools for here's what I can do if I'm approached?
Absolutely. One of the very first things that we educate people is what are your rights when you are encountering an...
Listen, you can turn off this program if you don't agree. If you're here illegally, you don't have any rights. You are not here. You are breaking the law. You do not have rights. I know the SCOTUS ruled on that, but if you are breaking the law and you are here illegally, you don't have rights.
ICE agent or even just law enforcement. Most of the time when people encounter ICE agents, it's usually 70 to 75% of immigration arrests.
All these lawyers are funded by Soros. They're funded by the government. They're funded by all these other groups to keep illegal immigration high.
Happen after a law enforcement arrest. So the most average immigrant in the United States is not out committing crimes.
Except for the fact that they broke the law to get in here. Shove that back in their face every single time they try to say that. Well, they're not committing crimes. They committed a crime by doing what they are here. They're here illegally, committed a crime. That's baseline. In Catholicism, it doesn't matter if it's a mortal sin or a venial sin. It's a sin. In the law, it doesn't matter if it's, a tiny law or a big law. If you broke it, you broke it.
But if they were in a collateral situation at the wrong...
I mean, I love lawyer speak, but sometimes witches like this, and it's not her. She's just repeating what somebody smarter told her to do. The way they collateral situation. You mean like if you're a part of an illegal drug ring? Like what collateral situation are you gonna be a part of? That would be called, that the cops would be called. How would you be in a collateral situation? How? What would be happening? Oh, I'm at the store and I'm just grabbing some food. Oh no, the cops are here. What? Like the way they act in these regards is ridiculous.
Wrong place at the wrong time. We usually...
What? How are you in? There's no such thing as the wrong place or wrong time. Maybe in a 1 in 1,000 chance. There's rarely wrong place, wrong time nonsense.
Advise them to know to identify at least if there is a judicial warrant that is presented, that is signed by a judge, issued in a state court or a federal district court, that basically gives federal agents the authority, whether they consent or not, to enter the United States. That document can be slipped under the door, pressed against the window. If it's an administrative document that says Department of Homeland Security on it, they can say, I do not consent to you entering my home. They can say, I would like to speak to an attorney. There's a lot of...
You don't have any of those rights. Get your hands behind your back. You're going back to wherever you came from. And yes, Mark, if you're talking about Catholic Charities, I talked about it last night. They are number one. They are first in line of who needs to be blamed when it comes to illegal immigration. They're one of the biggest promoters of it. They're one of the biggest groups behind it. They need to be shut down until something can be figured out with them. I'll say it right now. Shut down Catholic Charities until that group can be reorganized, because it's not working. And you can't, oh yeah, sorry, you can't come in this house that if you are not a legal citizen, I'm not even talking like H-1Bs and all that stuff. If you have a visa, you can have property, you can do all this. If you're not here legally, you don't exist. If you don't exist, you don't get property. So you can't hide behind a door. Oh, sorry, you can't come in here because of it. No, man, get out.
Things that we teach and share with the community so that they can best protect themselves and maintain family unity if there is an unfortunate
family unity. Y'all go back together. I don't give a rat's patooey.
Situation where an arrest does happen, we make ourselves available immediately to help out.
Yeah, because somebody else is paying your bills. And of course, now we get TikTok users telling us about this.
A lot of police officers,
hold on,
ICE is out here raiding people's apartments. I was driving to the office this morning. I saw the ICE truck.
What's an ICE truck? Like the ice cream truck? Well, what's the ICE truck?
And I also saw a lot of police officers on the motorcycles.
Oh no.
So you guys, please stay indoor and be silent. Even if they knock on your door, do not say a word. Like, just stay indoor at this point. Do not come out. Because they are literally targeting.
Guess what, darling?
Hispanics.
They're targeting illegal immigrants. If they happen to be Hispanic, that's just the case. Like, honey, if they don't answer the door, you can still go get them.
Because all the cars that got pulled over this morning, I believe over 30 cars got pulled over this morning. And they were all Hispanics. So just be mindful and beware of your surrounding at this moment, because they are out here looking for you guys.
They're looking for illegal immigrants. And they're looking for them so much, they got the helicopters out now. I don't know. I've never seen this before. Got Black Hawk helicopters over Houston, Texas. Maybe that's just for the ice. I don't know. Out here flying around looking for them. I don't like the militarization aspect of it. Of course, these people aren't helping. This lady from DFW says, ICE can now raid hospitals. You show up in my unit and I'll show you why I'm my father's daughter. Sweetheart, you keep that up, you'll be reunited with your father. All right, you can wave your middle finger from me all the way back in Mexico. Bye. And then they have this where these white women who have nothing better to do than virtue signal try to talk, do this, do that, do this, ask for this. Doesn't matter. You know what? You can talk to me about this when you're on the plane. Oh, I have rights. Yeah, get on the plane. But I get on the plane. I don't care. Sue me from Mexico. Get out of here. And I love it. I think it's great. Get all of them out of here now. And then the last thing we're going to do talking about this is from Raw Alerts. This happened this afternoon around 3 o'clock. President Trump just signed an executive order shutting down all migrant entry access points at the southern border, including designated crossing and points of entry. I'm the kind of guy, I am all for a immigration moratorium for 10 years. I don't want any immigration for 10 years. I don't want any for 10 years. No immigration. None. Sorry. Don't care. We got to get our own house in order. We got to figure this out. No more. No H-1Bs, nothing. No student visas, nothing. Get them out. Because you cannot allow an overflow of people who do not if they don't respect the laws of your country by doing it the correct way, then you don't want them here. And I'm sorry for the rest of you, you're going to have to wait. You know, you can start your process in your country of origin. You know, maybe we'll set up at embassies in different countries. Oh, you want to come to the United States? Got to do it. All right, you're approved in 2030. Or what's it, 2025? 2035. You'll be one of the first ones in if you still want it. It's the way it's got to be. It has to be this way. Because the left, they absolutely screwed the pooch on this. I'm sorry if that offends you with the language. They absolutely did it. They messed up big time. So that's the only way. You got to shut down everything in order to fix it. And the left's going to try their cry. They're going to try the crying people online. They're going to be like, oh, well, we have an army of lawyers. Great. We have an army of ICE agents ready to put them out. And if you, Miss Attorney that's on TV, if you would like to go to Venezuela, if you would like to go to Mexico, if you would like to go to El Salvador, if you would like to go to their country and help them fill out the paperwork, be my guest. Au revoir. You can go to these places and fill out the paperwork with them. I guarantee you ain't gonna go. I guarantee you ain't gonna go. Shocking, right? You won't go there. All right, so that's the last political story. We're done with political stories for the day. We're gonna end here on Rickcast as the aforementioned Rick. A lot of bad problems today with the internet. Sorry about that. But last story of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we'll do something politics. Something else actually happened today that wasn't political. By the way, Notre Dame got blown out in the national title game for football. Still love you, Notre Dame. Still love Marcus Freeman. Great coach. Good effort. I mean, Ohio State spent $20 million to get their team together. So that's what NIL will do. Moving on. Baseball Hall of Fame was announced today. Final ballot. Ichiro Suzuki, CC Sabathia, and Bill Wagner. Carlos Beltran, you need to get I think it's 80% or something like that in order to get in the Hall of Fame. You need 75% of the votes. And so Carlos Beltran barely made it. He was a heck of a player. Andrew Jones, I don't know why he keeps getting no love. Manny Ramirez, I don't think he'll ever get there. Andy Pettitte, I don't understand how CC Sabathia can get into the Hall of Fame. Now, these are players that I actually watch. I haven't watched baseball in years, ever since they went super woke. Baseball was probably my favorite sport back in the day. Even all the way back to 2007, 2008. Huge Red Sox fan. So I watched CC Sabathia. I watched Andy Pettitte. I watched Carlos Beltran and Chase Utley. I watched all these guys play, and they're all very good. Now CC, this may be a bit of a grenade, but I'm going to pull the pin and drop it. CC Sabathia is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, he's just not. Is he good? Hell yeah. I watched him smoke the Red Sox a lot of times, and I was not very happy when CC Sabathia signed with the Yankees because I was going, man, that's crazy. But yeah, Andy Pettitte was the lefty, and you knew when Andy Pettitte went on the mound, he was gonna give you everything, and he was just gonna it was gonna be a long day. Sabathia, there's two reasons why Sabathia is a first ballot. I'm not saying he's not a Hall of Famer. I thought he would be like maybe a fourth or a fifth ballot, because it's a big deal to be the first. When the first time you're on, you get in on your first ballot. That's a huge deal. Like Ichiro, he absolutely deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Absolutely does. You ever watched Ichiro Suzuki play? It was magnificent. Truly, like one of the best to ever play. CC, I thought he'd be maybe fifth or sixth. Not a first ballot. Not a first ballot Hall of Famer at all. And the reason he is, and if you think I'm wrong, absolutely come after me in the comment section. There's two reasons. He's black, and he's a member of the Yankees. I actually think the second one's more important than the first one. The fact that he was a member of the Yankees, because he was good in Cleveland. And sports writers are notoriously liberal. Why do I say that? Because when you go head to head with somebody who is not in the Hall of Fame, that is one Kurt Schilling, who, when you match him up, he pretty much beats him in everything except maybe innings pitched, wins, loss, and now CC, the reason that his wins were more is because he was playing for the Yankees. But Schilling's got more championships, more All-Stars, more MVPs in the playoffs. His ERA was better. He has more strikeouts. His strikeout percentage is higher. All these things. There's 3 areas where CC's better than Curt Schilling. Curt Schilling is still not in the Hall of Fame because Curt Schilling is a Republican. Because Curt Schilling is a Republican. That's why Curt Schilling's not in the Hall of Fame, because he promoted Bush in 2004. If Curt Schilling never said anything, he would probably be in the Hall of Fame by now. But CC Sabathia is in the Hall of Fame because liberal reporters want to pat themselves on the back and say they're not racist, because the race dogs would have gone after the writers for not electing CC Sabathia. And it's not even CC Sabathia's fault. It's not even his fault. Just like Lamar Allen. No, Lamar Jackson, probably the quarterback for the Ravens. He seems like a really good dude and he plays really hard. But you got these race hustlers on ESPN who are pushing narratives, and he's probably like, bro, shut up so I can just play football. Because despite what you think, if you don't listen to ESPN, a lot of these guys who play ball, they just want to play ball. Whether it's basketball or it's football, maybe the NBA. NBA is a little bit more trash. But football, baseball, they just want to play. And so CC Sabathia probably is and it's a well-earned accomplishment. I do think he would have been a Hall of Famer eventually, but I think he's in there because he played for the market in the Yankees and he happens to be black. And if the Writers Association, if the writers of the Baseball Hall of Fame or the voters for the Baseball Hall of Fame didn't put him in on the first ballot, they would have gotten attacked. Why didn't CC Sabathia didn't get into the Hall of Fame? Because of the clear ancient bias of white baseball, right? You can already see, you can imagine the headlines being written as we speak. So they were like, whatever, give it to him. He's in. I personally don't believe that CC Sabathia is a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's maybe a second or third ballot. I think Andy Pettitte probably deserves to get in before CC Sabathia does. But that's just me. I haven't watched baseball in a long time. But there are reasons, and of course, everything's political. Everything has to be political now. So it's just whatever it is in that regard. So it's sad. But on the other hand, I mean, these 3 guys, Billy Wagner, yeah, he absolutely deserves it too. I absolutely think he deserves it. I kind of wish Carlos Beltran or Andrew Jones, or I don't think Manny deserves it. Manny was one of the best. I was a Red Sox fan during Manny's peak, man. And Manny, gifted hitter, absolutely brain dead. Absolutely brain dead watching Manny Ramirez in the outfield. Watching Manny Ramirez in the outfield as a Red Sox fan was probably one of the most painful experiences of my life. Because you're like, this dude's going to crush 35 to 45 home runs every year. He's going to get 100 RBI, but you're going to watch him not be able to pick up the ball. He's going to have a water bottle in his back pocket while he's out in the outfield. He's going to be looking around at a bird flying in the air when a pop-up comes. And I get it. When you're as talented as Manny Ramirez was, you didn't really have to pay attention to stuff because you would just get up to the plate and smoke a ball 500 feet. And people are like, I don't care what you do. Him and Ortiz, great 1-2. Rodriguez, I think it's going to take Rodriguez a while because of his steroid accusations. But I think Rodriguez deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Guy was absolutely talented. Guy was so good, he played at 2 positions, right? He played at shortstop, and he was able to get to third base. Derek Jeter couldn't do that. Derek Jeter had to play at shortstop, and defensively, he wasn't even that good of a shortstop. People don't want to talk about that. Chase Utley, he was a great player as well. Andrew Jones, man, he's the guy on the list that I don't think is going to get in, but he should. He should. He really should. There were a lot of fly balls a lot of hits that should have gone down, a lot of RBIs that he stole. But that's you upset about Derek? Oh, I think I made Lou upset about Derek Jeter. Yeah, sorry. I'm a Red Sox fan. I don't like Jeter. He's a heck of a player, Mr. October. Great. He made his name in the playoffs, but statistically, he wasn't that good of a shortstop. Rodriguez was a better shortstop, but he couldn't supplant him because Jeter got there first. That's my opinion. Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree or not agree. But yeah, it's sad that politics have, never always been there. But the the Hall of Fame voters for baseball are notoriously liberal. And I'll end on this because I've gone way over tonight, and that's fine. Thank you for hanging out with me. And I really do appreciate everybody on Rumble and on Twitter and on YouTube sticking with me throughout the technical problems I had. So I greatly appreciate all y'all. Clemens and Bonds deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and so does Sosa. And so does Mark McGwire, for that matter. If they come up on the ballot, I think they should, because baseball was dead. Baseball turned the other way and everybody knew, and they allowed these men to use performance enhancers. And by the way, there are men in the Hall of Fame that use methamphetamines when they were playing back-to-backs and double headers. This idea that they're going to get, they're going to have this moral high ground, and I don't even like Bonds, and I don't like Clemens because he left and he went to the Yankees. You're going to get this moral high ground with Clemens and Bonds and McGwire and Sosa when McGwire and Sosa saved the game of baseball because it was not coming back after the strike. They brought people back. They should be in there just for that. Baseball looked the other way. They said, do what you need to do. Yeah, we're almost done. They did what they need. They did what they did. Baseball turned the other way, and they shouldn't be punished for it. They should. But there you go, folks. That's your Hall of Fame this year. Your 2025 Hall of Fame. All right, folks, that's it for this episode of Rickcast. Please like, subscribe, and share to get this program to more people. And by the way, if you are going to be in the Mid-Atlantic region, there's still time to buy your tickets to the 15th Annual Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas. I'm going to be the MC of this conference, and along with other amazing presenters such as Enoch, John Edwards of Catholic for Rednecks, Anthony and Rob from Avoiding Babylon, John Frankman, the former U.S. Green Beret, and the Bishop of Charleston. It is going to be a great time. I hope to see you there. It's in 3 weeks. There's tickets still available. So definitely, if you can, you should go. I'd love to see you there. And maybe if you're there, I will sign my book, The Armed Catholic, The Catholic Case for Guns and Self-Defense, which I will be selling at the conference. I only have like 15 of them. But if you want me to sign it, I don't know why you'd want me to, but I'd be happy to. And if you have bought my book on Amazon, do me a favor, take a picture of your book and take a picture of a review. If you do a review on there, I'll send you either a t-shirt or a hat as a thank you, because they value reviews that highly, that if you guys do that for me, I'd be more than happy to do that for you. All right, folks, that's it for this episode of Rickcast. I'm greatly appreciative of every single one of you. I will see you tomorrow. I actually have a guest tomorrow. So I'm very excited about that. You're going to find out tomorrow when the show starts who that guest is. So tune in. I will see you then. God bless. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.